Why do you think we're seeing this rise to new highs here?
Well, I mean, the whole crypto market has been driven by adoption, right? And so we're getting new investors in, a lot of it being like U.S. macro-based investors, and they're starting to use Bitcoin to hedge out inflation. And then what you see is once people tend to get into Bitcoin, then they start to spread out. And what we saw over the last couple of weeks was big banks like JP Morgan came out and said, listen, it might be better to buy Ethereum over Bitcoin in this type of environment. But the message is that institutional investors are here, they're investing, and that's what's keeping the bid under the market.
Frank, I know you think there's also been catalysts ranging from the launch of the futures ETF or ETFs to, funds being raised by SoftBank and others, major new fund launches, that kind of thing.
Yeah, you see a vast amount of capital pouring into the space, and that's been pushing up valuations. That's kind of the backdrop of this rally, right? I mean, I was talking with my colleagues today about one startup that's raising at a $400 million valuation in the non-fungible token market. Mm-hmm. So the amount of capital pouring in is immense.
And in NFTs specifically, Frank, I mean, how much has that been a catalyst of interest in Ethereum? I mean, is that why it's been outperforming?
Well, you have the value kicks up to the blockchains on which a lot of these different projects are being built. So you have NFTs on Solana, you have NFTs on Ethereum. So as these NFT projects and companies launch, or metaverse companies as well, that value is going to kick up to the blockchain on which they're built. And Facebook's announcement that they're sort of going all in on the metaverse has been a huge boon for companies offering services in that market. And I think you're going to see a huge wave of new entrepreneurs in the metaverse come to market over the next few months, which will help coin prices as well.
So, Brian, what is the regulatory risk here as these cryptocurrencies seem to be getting more and more traction, more and more value, and institutional interest? What do you think might happen there?
Yeah, so the regulatory risk is declining. I mean, relative to what it was 2 or 3 years ago when you really didn't have a sense of what the regulators were thinking. What we've seen and what we've heard from the regulators is that this is a new technology, a new industry. They don't want to stifle growth in that. But let's figure out the framework to go around what these assets are. And so I do think there is still a regulatory risk that potentially something that is one of these coins or one of these protocols are doing today may not be something that they could do in 3 to 6 months. That risk is diminished tremendously because the regulators are really understanding what is going on here, that this is a new technology and is really a new growth engine for the U.S. economy. It is one of the only big growth areas, particularly now that Facebook has said, hey, the metaverse is going to be something new. Crypto's already been in the metaverse for a long time.
And on that note, Brian, do you think that it does go back in many ways to Facebook, renaming itself, changing the ticker and all the rest of it as evidence that this is all going mainstream? Because when you talk to people who want to invest their money in this space, do you basically tell them, okay, stick with Bitcoin, or is it look into NFTs, look into Ethereum, think about the metaverse, that sort of thing?
Yeah, I think you really do need to take a portfolio approach. I mean, if you just buy Bitcoin, you're going to capture, let's call it 70, 80% of the upside of crypto. It's kind of like buying a S&P 500 index fund. You're going to catch all of it. But if you really want to dig into what this new technology is, you do want to look at Ethereum and Solana. And Frank mentioned, there's a lot of NFTs and DeFi built on these. Remember, a lot of these other protocols work very much like a digital oil, that you need these tokens to use the protocol. And with Ethereum on a lot of this, they actually burn that. So you get a declining inflation rate or declining supply of these. So it kind of serves, if you go further out on the curve besides Bitcoin, you get a lot of the characteristics of Bitcoin plus this kind of new tech call option kicker. So I'd encourage everybody to go out there and look at, let's call it the top 30 or so cryptocurrencies by market cap.
Well, you got to be careful, though. You might get Squid Game in there for a day or two.
You may. I try to stay away from squid. I'm a calamari guy.
Yeah, exactly. Guys, thank you today. Brian Kelly, Frank Chaparro, talking crypto. We appreciate it.
Shepard Smith here. Thanks for watching CNBC on YouTube.